What do you do when you lose your keys? You find them. Why? Because they're lost. So what happens when you lose weight? You find it. If you do it incorrectly, you will find it because just like your keys, you will go seeking for them. With countless diets, weight loss drugs, fitness fads out there, why are so many people still struggling to lose weight and keep it off? So today in the classroom, we're going to be talking with best-selling author, world-renowned cardiologist, Dr. William Davis. He is the author of Undoctored, which was the first book, and I looked all over for the book before we started today's class. We also have the Wheat Belly series that you know and love so well. And then we finally Super Gut, which Dr. Davis and I did, or actually Dr. Davis did a 6-week Super Gut program that you could purchase at whenyouneedafriend.com under the workshop section. So today we're going to be talking about how to not just lose weight, but release it permanently. So get your pen and paper because we're going to learn together as we write lots of notes. And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here waiting for you. Hi, my name is Lily McDermott, and I am a certified life coach, a certified holistic cancer coach, and the host of the Lillian McDermott radio show Classroom. If this is your first time in the classroom, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide natural ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace your new truth and live the life of your dreams. Well, as I said at the beginning, sometimes we want to lose weight, but we treat it like keys. And we do it the wrong way. We do it the wrong way, and it isn't permanent. So what we want to do is we want to change that, be a generational pattern shifter, and change the way we look at a natural, safer way of releasing weight. And who better than Dr. William Davis to do that? And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Dr. William Davis is here to do just that. Welcome back. It's been forever since you've been in the classroom.
Thank you, Lily. Yeah, it's been a whole year.
Yes, and it's been too long. We've been trying to get you on, and so I'm glad that we finally were able to make it happen. It's been a busy, busy year, and we're going to be celebrating. We're going into yesterday. We celebrated the 14th year, 14th. It's called the anniversary because yesterday, not only the 14th of May, did I start my show way back then on the radio, but it was also on my birthday. So I get to celebrate my anniversary of the show and me for the birthday. So we're one day off, but I just wanted to include you in the celebration because you've been a major part of, of how I've looked at food and fat and all these things. So share a little bit about your background and why you went from cardiology to where you're at today in your journey.
Well, conventional cardiology practices are, I think, grotesquely inadequate. And I learned that in a hard way when my mom died of sudden cardiac death about 4 months after her two-vessel coronary angioplasty. That is, so she was living in New Jersey. I got that call after I'd moved to Milwaukee, where I was doing procedures morning till night, the same kind of procedures that my mom underwent. And it became clear. So she died at home by herself. Sudden cardiac death. But it illustrated to me that what I did in a cath lab, morning till night, was completely inadequate. How would I have told my mom, say, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years ahead of time, that she was going to have problems? She was going to die of heart disease. Well, back then, this remains true today. That is, people use cholesterol testing, which is patently absurd. It is it's nonsense. It's based on a fiction and a fairy tale. Outdated technology should have been abandoned decades ago. So back then, there was a test you could do, even though it was very unpopular. And I was accused of trying to make money. I was just trying to get people to understand they have heart disease years before trouble starts. And that's just to get a CT heart scan to get a coronary calcium score. And it's still around today. It's become much more popular, though it's taken 30 years. I did that 30 years ago, Lily, 30 years ago. And when you look for hidden heart disease, you find it everywhere. Well, the solution to that back then, you'll see hospitals doing these tests, not because they're interested in preventing heart attack, because they're interested in generating people for procedures, for money. I think that's wrong. Well, how do you stop? Let's say you generate a calcium score, let's say of 400. That'd be a high score. 0 is normal. So that means lots of coronary atherosclerosis, and you're heading towards heart attack, sudden cardiac death, angina, need for procedures. How do you stop it? Well, back then, it was baby aspirin, high-dose Lipitor, or other statin drug to reduce cholesterol, low-fat diet, low-saturated fat diet, and exercise program. And we help publish these data. If your score is 400 and you do nothing, it goes up 25% per year. So a year later, 500, 625. And with each leap, you're closer to dying, heart attack, etc. What if you go on that baby aspirin, low fats, low saturated fat diet, Lipitor, exercise? How fast does it go up? 25% per year. That is well-established fact across about a half a dozen studies. We know that the conventional answers do not work. And that's why your local hospital probably added an $80 million wing for cardiovascular health, because heart disease remains the number one moneymaker for hospitals. Why would you want to put a stop to that? Why would you turn that spigot off? And so heart disease is as prevalent as it was 40 years ago. Despite the fact that 80 million Americans take statin cholesterol drug, it has had no meaningful impact. Well, that makes me mad that my colleagues have chosen to turn a blind eye to actual prevention of heart disease. So I've spent the last 30 some years trying to understand how to prevent heart disease. And it's easy. That's a crazy thing. It's easy, but it has nothing to do with drugs, has nothing to do with procedures. It has to do with diet and not limiting fat, by the way. It has to do with addressing common nutrient deficiencies. It has to do with addressing the microbiome and some other things. But it's easy, it's inexpensive, and anybody can do it from the comfort of their own home. You do not even need a doctor to do it. But going down this path, Lily, taught me all kinds of new lessons in health regarding heart disease, as well as regarding so many other aspects of health.
I want to commend you because when you start something new, sometimes it takes 20, 30, 40 years for anyone to pay attention. But I remember doing, and it's still on YouTube, I learned about the calcium score test, the CT test that was for the heart. And I did it. And my score was 0, by the way, at the time. I don't know if that changes through the years. But Dr. Thomas Levy, he also talks about getting that done for prevention. So, good on you, Dr. Davis, that you stayed firm on this, regardless of the criticism out there, because we know that that is an important test that people can take. It's inexpensive. It really is inexpensive. And they can see how much calcium they have in their heart. And the more they have, the greater the prediction of heart disease, right? Is that the whole concept of it?
Yeah. So my good friend Dr. John Rumberger, when he was at Mayo Clinic, developed this evidence that 20% of total atherosclerotic plaque volume is calcium. So it's kind of a dipstick or a gauge for total atherosclerotic plaque volume. So if you have 2 cubic millimeters of calcium, for instance, you've got 10 cubic millimeters of coronary atherosclerosis. It's a different kind of measure than percent blockage. That's the kind of information you get from a catheterization.
Mhm.
There's a 75% blockage in the mid left anterior descending or something like that. That's a different kind of measure. The coronary calcium score is an index it's kind of like a pipe. If I had a foot-long iron pipe, a catheterization type observation would be there's a blockage halfway down that blocks 50% of flow. That's what they tell you in a catheterization. A coronary calcium score would say something like this. The foot-long pipe has 473.2 cubic millimeters of rust. It's a completely different measure. Which is a better measure? The coronary calcium score. people say, well, that's a measure of hard plaque. We want to know about soft plaque. No, it's a measure of total plaque.
Mhm.
And by the way, Lily, it's very easy to reduce that score, but it does not involve a statin drug or baby aspirin or cutting your saturated fat. It has nothing to do with those things. So we had to develop completely new lessons. We published some of those data. We need to publish more, but you can reduce a cardiac calcium score uh, almost always.
How long does it take to reduce it?
Well, one thing a limitation is the CT heart scan involves some radiation,
Hmm.
about 10 chest or X-rays equivalent radiation.
Hmm.
Because ideally, I'd love to do it once a month, but you can't. Too much radiation. So we've done it typically a year later or so. And so we don't know what happens in between, but because we limit ourselves to a year between scans, a year.
Got it. Got it. Well, I remember at the time, gosh, this brings back a memory. I was told that I was good for 5 years. That was when they recommended it at that time. And this was back when I first started. And I was still on the air on radio. And so that's how long it's been. And people can watch it on my YouTube channel. You probably have to look for it or search for it, put the calcium score on the search feature, and you can get it. It's very easy. And, so I'm glad that you stood up for that. So now with that in mind, we're looking at so many people that are on cholesterol medications. There are on different forms of weight loss medications. You and I have talked about Ozempic here in the classroom and the what was happening to people that are getting overdosed with these what are they, peptides? Is that what they're called? Or this diabetes medication that they're repurposing it for obesity. And you and I have talked about that before and how dangerous it is. Do you want to share anything new that you've learned since you've been in the classroom about Ozempic and all these inhibitors that are causing fast weight loss, but um, it's not something that is forever.
People are surprised to hear that cutting calories in your diet, a GLP-1 agonist drug like Ozempic you mentioned, Zepbound, Mounjaro, all those things,
Hmm.
or even a bariatric procedure like gastric bypass or lap band, they're all variations on the same theme, reducing calories. And we know with good evidence that when you reduce calories, you do lose weight, but you lose muscle also. So typically, let's say you lose 40 pounds, 10 of those pounds will be muscle, 30 pounds is fat. Well, when you lose muscle, and we know with good evidence, a lot of this science was done at the National Institutes of Health, the NIH. We know when you lose that much muscle, your basal metabolic rate drops. That is the rate at which your body burns energy, burns calories for the work
Hmm.
of living, breathing, digestion, manufacturing proteins. So we know when your basal metabolic rate drops, and typically it drops about 25, 27, 29%, that much. It drops permanently. It's not temporary. It's not a few weeks, not a few minutes. It's essentially permanent. And that means you will regain the weight. So you lose muscle when you lose weight, your basal metabolic rate drops, you regain the weight. Lily, even if you maintain a low calorie diet, like 1,200 calories per day, which is misery, and an intensive exercise program that includes resistance training. So I interviewed Danny Cahill, for instance. He was the winner of the eighth season of The Biggest Loser. He started in the 400 something pound range. He lost 273 pounds in 7 months. An astounding weight loss
I would
by,
say, go ahead.
by limiting himself to 800 calories per day and up to 6 hours per day of exercise, including resistance training. Well, he won because he lost so much weight. He looked terrific, though I don't know if you know this, but all the contestants who lose a lot of weight all wear Spanx underneath their clothes
Ugh,
because of the
the
skin
skin.
folds.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, he won. Well, he won the $250,000 prize. Well, I called him and he had regained all the weight. Even though he was on a very low calorie, this is a very committed guy. Even though he maintained a very low calorie diet and 2 hours a day, 6 days a week of exercise. And that's exactly what we've seen in those NIH studies. People who left the program or outside of the Biggest Loser TV show also. If you maintain a low calorie diet intensive exercise program, you will regain the weight. And even worse, Lily, now we have large databases, about 50,000 total people. These are databases where they track Americans like NHANES, or in Europe, Epic Norfolk, about 50,000 people. We know that the people who lose the most weight the wrong way die several years earlier.
Wow.
And your last few years are filled with falls, fractures, frailty, loss of independence, and other health struggles. So the enormity of this blunder being made in conventional healthcare, you can't overstate it. And now we have this class of drugs, the GLP-1 agonists, that people are saying, my colleagues are saying they're magical, they're effective, they're breakthroughs. No, they're not. They're horrible. People are going to be dying younger. I'm waiting for the class action suits to start because let's say you paid $12,000, Lily, to
Yeah.
lose 40 pounds over a year. You endured the nausea and vomiting and the injections, but you lose 40 pounds. 30 pounds is fat, 10 pounds muscle. You stop the drug. Most people can't afford that kind of money forever. You regain 32 to 34 pounds of fat, mostly in your abdomen. You don't regain the muscle. You're now more likely to be pre-diabetic, type 2 diabetic, risk for coronary disease, dementia, breast cancer. You're at higher risk now than you were at the start. So you put $12,000 into the pocket of pharma to become less healthy and likely die several years younger. So losing weight the wrong way is a death trap. It's a booby trap. You're going to set yourself up for failure and early death.
It's even though this information is out there, it is out there. People know they're at risk of cancer, they're at risk of losing muscle mass, they're at risk of gaining it all back and more. They still do it. And so let's talk about, because today I do want to talk about some of the new nutraceuticals that you're doing as well later on in the class. But for now, I really want to talk about some of these misconceptions because, even though people know that there is danger when it comes to this fast, bariatric surgery, all this, we all have to learn how to eat, whether you cut off half your stomach or not. You still have to learn how to eat healthy or whatever is healthy for you. So let's talk about these misconceptions of what healthy is and what you discovered in your book, Super Gut, with the microbiome and how to release the weight. Because I remember when I was working with you with a 6-week program, we had the Gut to Glow that I loved so much. And so with that in mind, I know that you're working on other products, but let's talk about some of these microbes that maybe are deficient in the body, that maybe can help release the weight. And what are some of the misconceptions about weight loss that gets us into trouble?
So almost everybody, including my colleagues, thinks that cutting calories is a good idea. It's a terrible idea. If you cut calories for more than a couple of days, your metabolic rate, like they saw in the NIH trials, is going to drop, and it guarantees that you gain weight. Literally, it achieves the opposite long term. It may take some months before that sets in. So that's a very common. Cutting fat is a fool's errand. There's no need. That's something that came out of the 70s and 80s from misinterpretation of very poor evidence. It's become clear that no one should be cutting fat, including saturated fat. We should go back to a style of eating that's programmed into your genetic code. So I often point out, what if you saw a lion? You're on safari in Africa, and you see a lion gore a wildebeest and open its chest and eat its heart and its intestines. And you say, that's disgusting. Let's capture that lion, put it in a cage. So you put it in a cage and you decide, we're going to feed it healthy things like kale and broccoli. What's going to happen to the lion? It's going to be dead within a few weeks, right? In other words, every creature has a style of eating programmed into its genetic code. We're no different. We have a style of eating, and we've strayed so far from that style because people don't have to hunt for their dinner, don't have to fish, gather shellfish, steal birds' eggs, gather berries, dig in the dirt for roots. We don't do that anymore. And it's caused us to be distanced from how we're supposed to eat. And now we have the likes of big food and highly processed, ultra processed and processed food, and idiocy coming from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, USDA, telling us to do stupid things like cut your fat, saturated fat, everything in moderation. This is all nonsense. We just revert back to the weight. Now, that's not enough because unfortunately, millions of Americans have made the mistake either of listening to dietary guidelines, listening to their doctors and dietitians, or being exposed to highly processed foods and have gained 10, 50, 100, 300 pounds. And just eating healthy, unfortunately, is insufficient to undo that. Because if you eat healthy, you won't lose 300 pounds. You might lose 50 pounds, but you won't lose 300 pounds. And if you do it by cutting calories, whether it's a drug, a diet, meal replacement, shakes, all the different ways, the things, the forms these things take, you'll lose weight up front and then regain it and be less healthy. So I didn't really take these issues that seriously because I didn't have a solution for a long time. But I stumbled on a solution. Lily, I did not do this on purpose. You know, I'm embarrassed to admit to you sometimes how many things I learned by accident. I learned this lesson by accident. I was doing a skin clinical trial in humans because I wanted to prove that this thing I created increased dermal thickness, dermal collagen, smooth wrinkles.
Is this what you're talking about? Okay.
So I just took 25 ladies, and they were all big ladies, American ladies, and I said, don't change your diet, don't change your exercise program, just get these four things: a high dose of Lactobacillus reuteri, the microbiome I've talked about, collagen peptides, hyaluronic acid, and the carotenoid astaxanthin. And the rationale was this, Lily. So everybody's lost reuteri. Almost everybody's lost it because it's very susceptible to common antibiotics. Almost nobody gets collagen or hyaluronic acid anymore in their diet because we've abandoned the consumption of organ meats because we were told it's full of saturated fat. And by the way, don't use bone broth. Bone broth is a source of lead. It is a source of collagen, but it's also a source of lead. So don't do bone broth. So we replace things lost: collagen, hyaluronic acid, and the carotenoid astaxanthin, because the modern diet's also lacking in carotenoids because people eat food from a drive-through or fast food lacking carotenoids. So there's a broad, and you have to get carotenoids from diet. You can't synthesize them. Your body can't synthesize them. I chose those things because one, they're lacking, and two, they're all often shown individually to impact shape and body composition. Shrink your waist, restore youthful musculature. I put them together, did our little clinical trial. We made measures like skin ultrasound, high resolution skin ultrasound, and we showed an increase in dermal thickness, and the ladies were thrilled. They lost a lot of their wrinkles. But we happened to measure waist circumference also because, we're not pharma. We don't have these huge multi-billion-dollar budgets by ripping people off. So we measured the ladies' waists, and their waists shrunk dramatically. No change in diet, no change in exercise program, but they didn't lose weight. Well, why would that be? Why would your waist shrink as much as 8 inches, but you didn't lose weight? Well, increased muscle. So that's what's been seen in mice. It's what's been seen in my large experience with people doing these kinds of things, like the reuteri yogurt. We're seeing a restoration of youthful muscle. Personally, in my early 60s, years ago, when I was about your age, I did this. I gained 13 pounds of muscle in 3 weeks, and my strength increased by 50%.
Wow.
And I was going to the gym. I don't know about you. I hate the gym. I hate going there. You have to drag me there. So I go maybe 15 minutes once a week. Despite that meager effort, 13 pounds of muscle, a 50% increase in strength. So that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a specific reduction of abdominal fat and a restoration of youthful musculature. Now, ladies won't get 13 pounds. You might get 5 pounds or 7 pounds, something like that. And we're launching another clinical trial in just a few weeks to more formally document all this in a larger group of people, men and ladies, because this is so important. If you're going to die 3 to 5 years younger because you made the mistake of taking the stupid drug or followed a diet program someone sold you, or a meal replacement program, or lap band. Well, it's time to undo that. And by the way, we have another clinical trial where I'm not a big friend of pharma, but we're trying to do a clinical trial where we do these kinds of strategies I'm talking about concurrent with a GLP-1 agonist. Because I hope that this may be a way to get off the drug and not regain the weight. Because if we can preserve muscle through a weight loss effort, it may block weight regain. So that clinical trial in the planning phases, we haven't done it yet.
Wow. So what is it that you would need to do to help these people? Because there's a lot of people and it's being paid for by the government too, or the insurances. So somebody's making lots of money, but it's a deceptive. It's so deceptive. And so they get off this. What are they lacking? What do they need? Can they take something along with this GOP one? Pills or shots or whatever it is that it is. I really don't know how they administer. I think it's a shot, but is there something that happens that depletes the body of something, or it's just it keeps you from eating?
Well, the drugs work by suppressing your appetite. You just lose interest in food, and it slows the passage and digestion of food in the stomach. And so there's no question the drugs do work for
Yeah.
weight loss. The problem is they're not selective for fat. There's a lot of muscle loss. The other thing about those drugs is that the most problematic form of fat is the fat in your abdominal cavity, the fat that surrounds your intestines, liver, kidneys, etc. Not the fat beneath the skin, so-called subcutaneous fat.
Hmm.
That may be in your chest or neck or buttocks or thighs. It may be an aesthetic issue. It may be a challenge to
Hmm.
weight-bearing joints, but it doesn't have the same kind of metabolic consequences as abdominal fat that's inflamed and causes insulin resistance that causes you to gain weight and drives diseases like type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and dementia and breast cancer. So ideally, when you lose weight, you lose it from abdominal fat first, because that's the source of insulin resistance that drives weight gain and blocks weight loss. But the drugs and all those methods of cutting calories are selective for subcutaneous fat. The preponderant, the weight, lost weight is mostly subcutaneous fat, not abdominal visceral fat. So the whole paradigm of conventional weight loss is terribly and tragically wrong. It can be fixed. And now the things that the observations I've made need to be validated further and extended. But so far, we're seeing this also play out in real life. People who get the microbe, Lactobacillus reuteri, restored to their gastrointestinal microbiome, because we've all lost it. Nearly everybody's lost it. We restore factors absent from modern diets, collagen and hyaluronic. Ladies always say this to me. They say, "Oh, don't tell me about hyaluronic acid. I know all about it because I buy a very expensive serum and I apply it to my eyes, my crow's feet, and it reduced my crow's feet." I said, "I'm not talking about that." So if you apply hyaluronic acid serums to your crow's feet, what did it do for your skin and your neck or abdomen or thigh? Nothing. So the real power of hyaluronic acid is orally. And it does improve skin because it increases moisture retention in the dermal layer of skin. It also provokes further production of collagen in the dermal layer. It also increases collagen in your joint cartilage and the synovial fluid, the joint lubricant in your knees and hips. But it's also a fiber, Lily. So, most people think of fibers as something that comes from plants, and that's largely true. Hyaluronic acid is a fiber that comes from animals, brain, skin, tongue. And when you ingest it orally, it nourishes microbes in your gastrointestinal tract, one of the most important fibers you need. And most people don't get it because we don't need brain and skin anymore. But hyaluronic acid acts as a fiber and it blooms very important species in the gastrointestinal microbiome that produce a fatty acid mediator of weight loss, butyric acid, that causes weight loss. It also reduces insulin resistance, reduces blood glucose, blood pressure, gives you a bit deeper sleep, gives you more vivid dreams. So this is restoring factors absent from modern life. And then that last factor, the carotenoid astaxanthin. There's many other carotenoids. There's lutein, zeaxanthin, cryptoxanthin, and others. I chose astaxanthin because it's the most potent of all. It's the pink or the orange in salmon and shrimp and lobster. So you get astaxanthin restored to compensate for the lack of carotenoids in the diet. And that combination has proven to be surprisingly effective. Now, maybe there's one of the things I work on with my team is, are there ways to improve on this? So,
Hmm.
so far, that's what we're doing. And we're seeing people lose abdominal fat and maintain youthful musculature. Maybe in future we'll do better at this. One of the things I wonder is lactobacillus gasseri. I think you and I talked about lactobacillus gasseri. as
Mm.
part of what I call SIBO yogurt, my SIBO yogurt formulation. So the half the US population that has SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and it's impairing their health, might be experiencing depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, rosacea, psoriasis, rheumatoid arthritis, headaches, dementia, type 2 diabetes, weight gain, obesity. A lot of it not caused necessarily, but driven and worsened by SIBO via endotoxemia. Microbes release their toxic compounds into the bloodstream, and it drives all these conditions. Well, restoring this lost microbe, Reuteri, and even better, another one called Lactobacillus gasseri. I have a third one, probably Bacillus subtilis or Bacillus coagulans. You restore those things, and we do it as a yogurt. And so far, SIBO has gone away in about 90% of people who've done this, as judged by breath testing, hydrogen breath testing. I don't know if we talked about this in the past, but the air, the so-called air device, you
Yeah.
blow into it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have it right here. I have it
Yeah,
right
yeah,
here.
that's right. And so far, that combination of microbes has proven. So I wonder, but Gasseri has also been shown separately, other evidence, to shrink your waist, to shrink abdominal fat quite dramatically. And so I wonder if we should also include Gasseri. So this science, Lily, is evolving. It's getting better, but we're always working towards trying to improve the results. But I really cringe when I see all the people who've been led down this awful, awful path
Mhm.
of cutting calories or GLP-1 agonists or even a bariatric procedure. And you know what? My colleagues hold these things up as ideal. They say the best way to lose weight is a bariatric procedure. They think so well of this that they're advocating in children now.
Oh, you just pierced my heart right now. That is not good. You know, I don't know if I shared this with you, but the only time I've really lost it on my show, and I've been doing this for 14 years now, was I was interviewing a bariatric doctor. I had a really good friend from high school that went through the procedure, and when she showed up at my door, she was half of who she used to be. And so I thought, well, let me learn more. Let me do this with her, and I'm just gonna just do the show. And when he gets on, he was telling me that people were morbidly obese because they had a bacteria in their gut. And so I said to them, okay, so why do the bariatric procedure? And he says that's the only way you can get rid of it. I said, okay. So as we progressed on because I was beginning to learn about this, I'm learning along with everybody else. And then I said, okay, you cut off their stomach. Then after that, why are people gaining weight? Because I knew so many people that had this procedure. And he says, well, people need to practice moderation. And I almost lost it. I even my husband, who is one of my biggest fan, he opened the door to my office and says, "Way to be a friend." And I'm like, "Well, I am being a friend to the people who don't do this because my friend lost 40 pounds. She released 40 pounds prior to her surgery. Why not continue that whatever they were doing? Now she doesn't have her stomach. She just has a small portion of what she calls a stomach that doesn't. So I guess I'm just upset again of the deception of this procedure that is very expensive. And you know, you said that they don't live as long as they would, and they're not getting the nutrients into their body unless they're diligent about their supplementation.
And half developed SIBO, Lily, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, because they lost their stomach or it's been bypassed. And stomach acid is essential. You need stomach acid. It's the way you prevent oral microbes. Your mouth is second only to the gut in the density of microbes. So you want to protect yourself from your oral microbes. Scary
Yeah.
thought when you think about it.
Yeah.
But stomach acid kills those oral microbes and protects your small intestine from oral microbes. So you need that stomach acid. Stomach acid also protects you from the ascent, the climbing up of fecal microbes. So loss of stomach acid is catastrophic, whether it's from a PPI drug like Prilosec, or whether it's from gastric bypass or gastric resection. So or if it's an autoimmune condition from because you ate the gliadin protein of wheat and you cause autoimmune gastritis, or from H. pylori, all the causes for losing stomach acid, it is catastrophic. And that's by the way, that's the toughest SIBO of all to manage when you lose stomach acid.
Okay. So that would be my next question because for many years, Dr. Davis, for many years, was misdiagnosed as someone who had acid reflux, but the reality was that I didn't make enough acid in my stomach. And they gave me Nexium, they gave me Prilosec. And of course, back then I didn't know any better. I trusted everything that my doctor had to say. And today I think I still have side effects from that. Plus, I was on a drug for asthma for 9 years that was compared to chemotherapy. And I did not know that at the time. Man, once I started doing the classroom and I started learning from teachers like you, my life changed and I got off all these drugs and especially the asthma medication and my doctor my asthma doctor or allergist that he yelled at me that I should not get off the medication, that once I get off it that I will develop asthma worse than I have, and I just take vitamin C, Dr. Davis. That's all I take. And so all these years we get lied to, we trust, but at this point we need to just stop. So if somebody's like me, pretty healthy regularly, what can you recommend to increase this acid?
Really tough, Lily. It's one of the problems we don't have really good solutions for. So if you have reason to suspect you have hypochlorhydria, lack of stomach
Mhm.
acid, from H. pylori that you need to eradicate. So that's for one question. Do you have H. pylori in the stomach? Easy stool test, very simple stool test.
Okay.
Uh, do you have an autoimmune reaction to the gliadin protein of wheat? Well, get rid of the wheat,
Well,
right?
I don't eat wheat. I don't eat, you know that I've got food allergies. So, I mean, my food allergies, the food allergies showed up when I was in my mid 30s, mid to early 30s. And so since then, I haven't had since 96, 98. I haven't had wheat products, dairy products, eggs. So those are things that my body just doesn't process. One of the things that I want you guys to all understand that this is a class where we're all learning together, me included. And I want us to all share this information because the algorithms are keeping us from knowing this. And so that's why I'm so passionate about doing the classroom. So go to whenyouneedafriend.com, click on, become a subscriber on my website. Also, like and subscribe to all my social media because this is where we continue to learn together. As you know, my registered service mark is you can take a pill, you can take responsibility. And whether, it's not that I'm against the pill, is that I'm for doing everything you can. And I'm looking forward to hearing what Dr. Davis has to say. But go there and start looking around. There's lots of classes. And we even have the Super Gut classes on YouTube for Dr. Davis. So if you want to go there and start looking at some of the classes that we did when we were doing that together, or you can purchase the Super Gut series that we did with a small group. It was a great experience. And I was very grateful to Dr. Davis. And this is when I learned about oxysudics, which is it's called Gut to Glow, that we discussed and everybody got when we did this event together. But I want to encourage you to also check out all the different like sponsors of the classroom, support our sponsors the way that they're supporting the classroom. Go to my Shop Now bag. You'll find the logo for Oxysudics there. It'll take you there. And I believe it gives you a discount. I can't remember because it's been a while since I've clicked on it because I get my stuff in a different way. So I want to encourage you to do that as well as check out the next event that we're doing, which is in November 1st. That is I Am the Solution Natural Health Summit for Cancer and Autoimmune Disease. So we're going to be coming together with lots of wonderful teachers in the classroom that are going to share what we can do to take our health back. So then when you go to the Shop Now bag at whenyouneedafriend.com, check out all the other products as well that you can start using that are Lilly approved. Last but not least, you can become an enrolled student in the classroom. whether it's $1 or $1,000 a month or a one-time donation, whatever the case might be. Maybe it's your time, your talent, your treasure. And like I said, sharing this video is giving to the classroom as well. If that's all you can do, that's all you can do, and that's good enough for us. But if you can give $1, like I said, everybody who watches the classroom would help. It would help financially to put the class together, and it doesn't all fall on me and the sponsors. So, and anything that you can do will be very much appreciated. As we appreciate Dr. Davis. I love Dr. Davis. We did the 6-week super gut together, and that was a lot of fun. Rain or shine, he was there to share the information. So, and if you want to go to his website, just click on the Oxyceutics on the Shop Now bag, and it'll take you there, and you'll learn more about the different products that they have in that in his website. So, Dr. Davis, my question is, how can we increase acid? Because with more acid in the stomach, the better it is for my digestion process too. And I know there's a lot of people saying, oh, you need to drink alkaline water, alkaline water, alkaline water. And I'm like, no, I drink alkaline water and I get severe diarrhea. So, yeah, everybody knows this now. Okay, so you're getting to know me very well today. Okay, so what do you suggest?
Unfortunately, once you've lost the function of the parietal cells, those are the stomach acid producing cells, they don't grow back. It's kind of like type 1 diabetes when you damage your
Mm,
pancreatic beta cells, they won't grow back. You're type 1 for the rest of it. It's the same kind of situation here. So you have to compensate by acidifying strategies. So
okay.
one way, and by the way to know you have this is you'll have things like you say, I eat beef, some ground beef, and it sits in my stomach for
Yeah,
hours.
I don't eat
Doesn't
ground
it
beef.
doesn't get
Yeah, yeah,
digested.
yeah.
That and or you see fragments of meats in the toilet. So, and you can have a test called a serum gastrin. That also indicates a lack of stomach acid. But let's say you
Serum,
have it.
can you say, what is that test again?
Gastrin, Gastrin. It's a simple blood test.
Okay,
And if it's increased, it means your stomach's trying to tell itself to produce more acid, but it can't.
okay,
So the only things you can do would be the common supplement is betaine hydrochloride, which does work. 500 to about 1,500 milligrams or so is a common dose. You take it at the start of a meal. You can use seltzers, unflavored, unsweetened seltzers for a little bit of acidification, and vinegars like apple cider vinegar. The problem with these things, Lily, is that they're only transient. They only acidify your stomach for maybe an hour tops, and then you lose. There's no internal production, so it doesn't provide around the clock protection. And I think that's the reason why when you have SIBO complicating your hypochlorhydria, it's so difficult to control. So, and another thing is we don't know if all the other functions of the lost parietal cells are compensated by doing these things, like the inability to absorb vitamin B12. So you want to have your vitamin B12 also assessed because you might not be able to get vitamin B12 from your diet, even with those acidification strategies.
okay. That makes sense. Okay, so let's continue because we talked about some of the microbes that could be missing in our body that we need to replenish. And I know that in the 6-week course that and in your book, you talk about how to replenish and plant seeds and all of that. But what are other things that we can do to release weight permanently, safely, and naturally?
Well, I don't know of a way to do it except that when we do it our way, that is wheat, grain, and sugar elimination, limit carbohydrate exposure, but don't limit calories, don't limit fat. Anecdotally, we've not charted this formally. It seems to be associated with mostly fat loss. We don't see muscle loss. We'd like to document that formally, but we've not done that yet. But the next clinical trial we're going to do is going to be, when you do clinical trials, you just can't fit everything you want to know into it. You have to be very selective. So in this case, we probably won't use the diet we use. We're just going to use some of those things we talked about. Restoration of reuteri, collagen peptides, hyaluronic acid, astaxanthin, and see if we can maintain muscle. And another clinical trial, we'll try to do that concurrent with a GLP-1 agonist to see if we can block the loss of muscle and thereby give people the ability to get off the drug eventually, because no one wants to stay on those drugs forever. So those are the projects in the works.
Very good. Very good. So I'm looking forward to that. Now, we only have like we're coming to the end of the class. I mean, it's just we still have some time, but um I wanted to know how the other products that you've been working on, are there any other products that you're working on that can help the body um become better?
I have a daughter-in-law who's about to deliver her third child. And I see her, she's got an endocrinologist, a gastroenterologist, an obstetrician, a gynecologist, a functional medicine doctor, a primary care doctor, a rheumatologist. No one told her anything about how to have a healthier pregnancy beyond the standard stuff like folic acid and antibiotics. No one told her about rotary, which is critical for reproductive health. No one told her about how omega-3 fatty acids reduce likelihood of premature labor dramatically. No one told her about lactobacillus crispatus, which is a very important vaginal microbe. And so I got thinking a lot about reproductive health, both for ladies who are of reproductive age as well as menopausal years.
Mhm.
And one of the lessons that came out of all this was that many ladies, especially as you age, lose the microbe lactobacillus crispatus from their vaginal microbiome. And losing it means you're much more susceptible to dryness, irritation, infections like candida infections or E. coli infections. You're more prone to urinary tract infections. You're more prone to incontinence. Well, the evidence is good now. You restore crispatus, and those things can recede quite dramatically. Even more interestingly, it may be an important skin microbe. As a woman ages, she loses crispatus not only in the vagina, but on the skin. And we know from other people's evidence that restoration crispatus reduces skin rashes, especially seborrheic dermatitis. And so we're going to explore this question: is restoration of crispatus vaginally and orally restore youthful characteristics? Here's the kicker, though. We like to make yogurt out of our microbes, like Lactobacillus rhodori, because it's a way to amplify bacterial counts 100 or 1,000 fold and get bigger effects when you want them. You don't have to. You can just take a microbe as a probiotic, but you can also amplify benefits by cultivating the numbers by making it something that looks and smells like yogurt. It's not yogurt, of course. And when you cultivate Lactobacillus crispatus, this important vaginal and skin microbe, it makes the most delicious yogurt you've ever had. It tastes like heavy whipped cream. We call it vagina yogurt. So it's proven to be an incredibly popular and easy way for a woman to and inexpensively restore a microbe. Because if you get a microbe, you make yogurt from it, and then you make subsequent batches from a little of a prior batch. So it's a cost-saving maneuver and also a way to amplify the benefits of a specific microbe.
Yeah, I had such a hard time doing my coconut yogurt. I'm hoping that you can perfect that um uh, so that I can continue and resume doing that. But I really loved when I would get a good batch. I loved my yogurt. And I love the fact that I knew I was getting these microbes in my gut. And it's amazing how everybody, I'm trying to remember how many people we had in the 6-week course, but everybody had something wonderful to say about how they were feeling. And then everybody loved. And I know that there's this woman that was a part of the group, and she actually ended up winning the yogurt maker that we gave out at the end. And every time I see her, she looks younger and younger. And so she's in her late 70s, early 80s, I believe. I can't I hope she doesn't look it anymore. She doesn't look it. So whatever age she is, she doesn't look it. So let's continue on with that product. That product is not in the market just yet.
It should be any moment now.
Any moment. Okay. So if I can get that product, I'm going to put the link on there so that you can just click on the link below and get it. But I'll also put the description in the description. I'll put the for if you want to get the oxyceutics, I'll put the link there. Also, I'll put the 6-week super gut course that we did with Dr. Davis. He led us along the way, and it was really good. It was a really good thing. So, what are some of the takeaways that you want us to have today? Um, you know, uh, for someone who's just tuning in, or if someone's going to be listening to this again or in the future, what are some of the takeaways that you would like for us to know of the importance of having a balance, not only just weight, but the gut as well?
It's sad to say, Lily, don't trust the doctors. They're too hell-bent on revenue and profit. They're too brainwashed by the pharmaceutical industry and the healthcare industry. So where does that leave you? Well, you become a victim, not a patient, a victim of the healthcare system. So it means doing what we're doing here, reading, learning, listen to your broadcast, listen to my podcast, read our books, those kinds of things, because the doctor won't know. If you went to the doctor and said, hey, doc, I heard this guy talking about the importance of restoring Lactobacillus rhodori and Lactobacillus crispatus. What do you think? Doctor will say something like this. No, probiotics have been proven to not work, or they're dangerous, or don't waste my time, or did you consult Dr. Google again, Lily? Or some other ridiculous answer. So the doctor is not your partner. He or she is not the person who's interested in your health. They're interested in revenue and I'm generalizing, of course. There are good doctors out there, but
Sure,
they're
sure.
few and far between. Most are of the mainstream type who's been brainwashed by pharma, by the medical device industry, by healthcare. So you gotta defend yourself.
You know, we can't give our power away so much. We've given our power away, and we go into this white coat trance, and we need to know, trust but verify. Listen to your doctor, but go back and do your own research. And you can do your research in so many different ways. There's so many health conscious groups that are out there, and podcasts that it's so much easier for us to learn. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that have information, and what might be right for me may not be what's right for somebody else. What do you say about that? I mean, I always say one size does not fit all. I used to believe that you had to be a vegan, you had to, I didn't say that to anybody else, but inside of me, I felt this was the best diet. And as I've progressed along, I've noticed as a coach, as now a certified holistic cancer coach as well, that it doesn't matter. People get cancer, it doesn't matter what they're eating and how they eat it. What we all agree, I think, across the board is that processed foods are not good for us. So, with that in mind, you know, can you say everybody needs rhodori, everybody needs these microbes? Can you say that across the board? Does one microbe fit across the board?
Rotary does. The only caution is that because we make super duper high counts with the yogurt, like 300 billion per half cup serving, that may not be, we don't know if it's safe during pregnancy
Uh-huh.
because one of the effects of rotary is to provoke release of oxytocin from the brain. And ladies know that oxytocin causes uterine contraction. That's why they give it to you at time of delivery as
Yeah.
Pitocin, an
Hmm.
intravenous infusion. So we don't know if it's safe in that setting. All ladies, pregnancy included, should have rotary. We just don't know if that high numbers are okay. So what I tell pregnant ladies is you can get rotary as a probiotic or do a mixed culture yogurt. Real easy trick. Get some rotary, get some conventional yogurt that has Lactobacillus bulgaricus, Streptococcus thermophilus, Lactobacillus acidophilus, Lactococcus lactis, and ferment those together. It's kind of like having a backyard garden. If all you plant is tomatoes, at the end of the growing season, you can have a ton of tomatoes. What if you plant cucumbers, and zucchini, squash, and watermelon, and tomatoes? How many tomatoes? Far fewer. Same thing here. So it's okay for everybody should have rotary. All mammals should have rotary. All humans, modern, indigenous, hunter-gatherers should have rotary. Just don't know about the high numbers in pregnancy. That's the only
Right.
uncertainty.
Well, I think this is great. Final words of advice for let's recap the like you just said all the different microbes that are good, but if somebody has so the only contraindication would be if you're pregnant. Everybody else, everybody's good.
Yes, but the most important thing people can do in the way of rebuilding a broken microbiome is, of all things, fermented foods.
Mhm.
Sauerkraut, kimchi, kefirs, Our yogurts also. What the yogurts are meant to do, by the way, Lily, is restore specific keystone species, foundational species. Because, we've lost hundreds of species. You can't make yogurt out of hundreds of species, nor do you have to. The good thing about doing things like fermented foods every day and restoring those keystone microbes is they restore order for you. And one of the most shocking things is when you do healthy things, all these new species appear. No one knows quite how that works, but it's probably that modern health habits have caused healthy microbes to diminish in numbers, and they hide in the mucus layer of your gastrointestinal tract. When you do things like fermented foods and eat better foods, avoid ultra processed, all those kinds of things, get omega-3 fatty acids, get vitamin D, beneficial species appear. Fecalibacterium, Akkermansia, lactospiration, but they weren't there in the beginning. So where'd they come from? They can't be made out of thin air. They were probably there in such small numbers. So you don't have to replace them specifically. You just restore some of the most important microbes.
Well, this is great. This is a great conversation. I'm glad that you're back in the classroom. It's been nice to spend time with you, and it's nice to see you again. It was too long, so we need to get you back once again. And I'm looking forward to learning more about your new product, and that's going to come out soon. And if I by chance have I have it. I put the code, the QR code or whatever, the link to get it. So look in the description below and you will see the link there. Thank you, Dr. Davis, for everything that you do and for your passion towards telling the truth the way you do. And for those of you who are in the classroom, tuning in, or you're listening on podcasts later on, I'm so grateful that you have chosen us. It's no accident. So do your research and take your life back. And please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lily McDermott and Dr. William Davis wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.